And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's back to Sumatra, or rather it's not back to Sumatra, it's back to the other side of my sitting room, where the intrepid Richard Freeman, that's him over there, waves to the boys and girls. Richard? He looks ever more languid when he does that. Richard Freeman, Archie the dog, and Dotty Periwinkle are sitting down, all waiting for Richard to tell them a story about the next exciting investigation they carried out while they were in Sumatra. Just to give you the backstory, as you probably know, Richard Freeman, Carl Marshall and Geordie Jackson recently came back after the 6th CFZ expedition to the island of Sumatra, where they were looking for the orang pendek. The team were, of course, looking for a specific species of unknown higher primate, but along the way they encountered quite a few different monkey species, both wild and domestic. Look at these. These are pig-tailed macaques.
I've got one climbing up a vine. Got one climbing up a vine. Oh, good.
By the way, those of you with long memories may remember that earlier this year I did a show about the mixed fortunes of different monkey species in Hong Kong, and one of the monkey species I was talking about was a semi-cryptic one known as Macacus sancti Johannis, which was described as being a macaque with a pig tail. However, that's not the same species as this, the pig-tailed macaque, but I thought I'd better tell you just in order not to have too much confusion on the matter.
There are two species of pig-tailed macaque. The northern pig-tailed macaque, which is found in Bangladesh, Cambodia, China, India, Laos, Myanmar or Burma for the more old-fashioned of us, Thailand and Vietnam. And the southern pig-tailed macaque, which is the ones that we're dealing with here, that are found in Malaysia and Indonesia. Pig-tailed macaques are amongst the largest of all the macaques and immensely powerful, with large teeth and powerful jaws, and they have even been known on rare occasions to kill people. There's a famous case of one of them which was used for picking coconuts. It had been captured from the wild, trying to pick coconuts, turned on its trainer and bit him to death. In many ways they're convergent with the African baboons, which they resemble quite strongly.
There's a famous film from the 1960s featuring Marianne Faithfull, who is the heartthrob I've been passionately in love with any time this last 45 years, featuring Marianne Faithfull dressed head to foot in leather on a motorbike, and the film's called Girl on a Motorcycle. Well, this is the Indonesian remake. It's called Pig-tailed Macaque on a Motorbike, and this is the same species as the wild ones we saw earlier, but it does appear to be domesticated, and its owner, assuming that the two swarthy young men on the motorbike are its owner or owners, is taking it from one place to another to work. And this particular monkey's type of work that it does is just like the one Richard referred to earlier. It's trained to go up trees in order to pick coconuts. There is an incident in Jan Ries's Swiss Family Robinson, which was first published in the same year that Napoleon managed to totally screw up his attack on Moscow. And it has a captive monkey being trained to go and catch coconuts. And according to Ries, or at least according to the father of the family that managed to get shipwrecked on an island which had everything, the way to get monkeys to send you down coconuts is to make faces at them and throw a stone up at the tree at them. They will then pick the coconuts and throw them back down at you. And that is, at least allegedly, the best way of getting a monkey to pick you coconuts. But I think from the footage we have here that the way that the monkey gets the coconuts is probably more conventional.
There were 3 adult pigtail macaques that were brought in by a man on a moped, and they all clung onto the moped in a rather amusing way. These are big savage monkeys, quite capable of killing somebody, and they had their canine teeth removed, which is their main weapon, but they're still monstrously strong, and I wouldn't fancy trying to wrangle them. But he had them on chains, and he had them one at a time going up this tree, grabbing hold of a coconut and twisting it round, it broke off, and throwing it down. And he was paid to do this, and he went place to place with his monkeys to pick coconuts. It reminded me a little bit of the way people with birds of prey are paid to go place to chase off pigeons and seagulls and things like that. It wasn't a whole plantation of coconut trees as far as I can see, just a few. There were far more mangosteen trees, mangosteen being one of my favourite fruits, but unfortunately they'd all been picked and gone by then. We were too late in the season for mangosteens. But it's a weird thing to see monkeys being carted round on mopeds to pick coconuts, and knowing how dangerous monkeys can be, I wouldn't fancy doing it. God knows how they're trained, but apparently there is a school. There is a school in this part of Sumatra where they train pigtail macaques to pick coconuts.
I'm wholeheartedly with Richard on this one. The most frustrating thing about the CFZ expeditions is that each expedition brings back more questions than it does answers. And it has absolutely nothing to do with cryptozoology per se, but I too would love to know how these pigtailed macaques are trained to pick coconuts. Because if you look at these animals, they don't look ill-treated, they look plump, in good condition, and they don't look like they're frightened, angry, or fighting against their chains. So I'd like to know how they train them, and I want to know where they sleep, how they're kept. Are they kept in big cages, or do they have the run of the house of the people who own them, and all sorts of other questions. So I think next time that Richard and Carl go to Sumatra, we've got to see if we can get down and let them get into a monkey school for a couple of hours, just in order to satisfy our prurient curiosity.
The mitred langur is a beautiful orange colour that sticks out very much in the jungle. All langurs are orange at birth. Their babies are bright orange, and it's to do with recognition of infants. But most of them change colour as they get older. But the mitred langur stays this striking orange colour that's not unlike an orangutan. The langurs are much shyer than the macaques. The macaques are quite bold and will approach cars in search of food. They associate humans with food, much in the same way that bears do when they're fed. Langurs are much shyer and much harder to approach. We only saw them from a distance.
I find this totally fascinating, and I make no apologies for including these little snapshots of the way that life in the jungle goes on, and how Richard, Carl and Geordie, for a few short minutes, were part of this glorious, ever-changing tapestry of the jungle. But now we have something else for you. Their guide, Dally, who has been a friend of the CFZ for some years, has over the years amassed quite a collection of footprints and handprints from the orang pendek, because Dally is an expert in the subject and has been researching the orang pendek for many years. Was it a surprise when you saw how many footprints and handprints that Dally had amassed over the years?
No, not really, because he's been working very hard, and I was kind of expecting you to have quite a few.
The thing that interested me most, just on a cursory viewing of the video, is the range in sizes, shapes and sizes between the different specimens.
Well, they were from different things. Some of them were classic orang pendek, with the four toes at the front, the hallux at the side, and the heel.
We've got one of Dally's in that box.
Yeah,
right
we'll have a look at them in a minute. But then he had one that looked like a colossal orang pendek. It was nearly twice as big. It must have been a huge individual. Then he had others that were prints of a sun bear, where the bear has put its front paw in the dirt and then put its back paw over that to make a double print, so it looks longer than it should, but you can tell those because of the claws. Then he had ones that are very strange, more like the Yeti, very big, much more Yeti-like, nothing like the orang pendek. And then he had one that looked like the paw print of a colossal tiger, an absolutely huge tiger, and some that we know couldn't make head nor tail of, could we?
No.
Tell me a bit more about the giant tiger.
Yeah, the giant tiger, which they call the Tanua, is alleged to be a massive tiger. They say that its back is as broad as a Sumatran rhinoceros, which obviously isn't a particularly large rhinoceros, but that would still be enormous for a tiger. So it's clearly large if it exists, but it's being exaggerated. The footprint that we've got looks like it's splayed out the toes, so it looks like it's walked on some sort of terrain that's slippy or steep, or maybe a mixture of the two.
There are stories of a Bigfoot-like creature in Sumatra, I believe.
Yeah, that's what we think these Yeti-like tracks come from. I know next to nothing about it. The only one that I really know much about is the orang pendek. This larger type, you'd have to ask Dally for more details.
That's Bigao, isn't it? Bigao.
Bigao is is another name for the orang pendek.
Okay, so it's orang mawas then.
Yeah.
The big one.
And that's just about the end of this second set of dispatches from Sumatra. There will be more, because today is Wednesday the 2nd of November. Carl Marshall arrived in the CFZ last night very late, and today we are going to be filming and editing more dispatches all day. So watch this space, and until then, I'll be seeing you.